Welcome to the Wild Sacred Journey podcast. I'm your host, Kate Powell. In a world where humans who feel vibrant, whole, and fully alive seem to be increasingly rare, where burnout and brokenness seem to be increasingly the norm, both in individuals and our larger ecosystems, it seems worth exploring how did we get here? And more importantly, what perspectives or what cultural practices or what spiritual, ancestral, or animist wisdom processes might help us stay true to the spark and rhythm of our aliveness on this wild, heartbreaking, but ultimately rare and precious life. Thank you for being here. May these conversations help us to stay human in the face of dehumanizing forces. May they nourish our wild, tender hearts, and may they plant seeds which flourish into a more regenerative and vibrant future. Hey, Kate here with Wild Sacred Journey, coming to you from on a frosty day here in the north. So yeah, this is just going to be a quick little bonus episode, sharing something that I actually shared with my email list a couple weeks ago. And I thought at the time, like, oh, this might make a good little bonus episode, and got busy with other things. And then a couple people reached out and were like, oh, that was a really helpful reminder. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I will make a little bonus episode here for you. So yeah, so burnout and the holiday season, because we're in it. So how we currently participate in what we've created, what we've come to call the holiday season, right? The culture of holiday season as it currently exists is a lot of it. Like, honestly, it's completely it's the opposite of what our bodies have evolved over thousands of years to do in this season, particularly those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. So the busyness, the urgency, the consumerism, all of that is like really not what we're supposed to be doing in this time. So, these would have been the dark days. These would have been the lean days. These would have been the times when you would have been hoping that you'd been able to store enough food, hunt and gather enough food, grow enough crops and preserve them to get you through the leaner times. This would be a time when the rhythm of keeping the fire going, banking it at night, but keep making sure the embers there's still enough embers to catch the next morning, having enough wood. You would have been rationing, but also like really everything would have been so precious. And it's dark. You're not meant to be outside so much. You're not meant to be doing. This would have been a time when people would have been resting for the busy, longer days ahead. They might have been repairing nets. They might have been carding or spinning or weaving. They might have been, sharing stories around the fire, around meals. So it wouldn't have been that they wouldn't have gathered. They would most likely have gathered. But it would have been with a very different intention, a very different appreciation, and a very different rhythm. And so this is the part that I think I really want to highlight, is that especially since most of us are already operating pretty much at capacity, kind of, just barely like keeping it under overwhelm. That's kind of our baseline these days for most humans. So considering that, then if you are out of rhythm with the season, out of rhythm with your body, out of rhythm with aliveness, you end up tipping too much into burnout. So, yeah. One of the things I really appreciated in a couple of different books I've been reading recently is this idea that I'm kind of weaving together from a couple different places. Cal Newport's Slow Productivity, Johann Hari's Stolen Focus, but is this idea that we have different types of focus, that the sort of relaxed, dreaming state mind that we can tap into when we're doing somewhat mindless tasks, or, when we're in creative flow, or when we're just laying around watching the clouds go by, or listening to the birds, or watching the fire, the shadow and the flame kind of flicker, right? Those would have been, that's another type of focus. So we tend to think of focus as being the do, right? I'm going to focus in and get stuff done. But there's another type of focus, which is actually kind of more this dreaming state, deep focus, where we're not hyper focused on one thing. It's not a spotlight. It's much more of like a just kind of general letting thoughts come and go. And that's a really important part for us to be able to then think deep thoughts. It's a really important aspect for us to be able to come up with new ideas, to be able to create anything new, because that's the space where creativity actually happens, where synthesis actually happens. Sorry, I'm gonna have to cough for a second. The air is quite dry, quite cold. So these would have been, so this is the time of year where that happens. This is the into the cave moment, right? We're approaching midwinter, that moment where the longest night, and our longer ago ancestors would have had all kinds of rituals for honoring, praying for basically the return of the light. What if that's the sun rays? If you're watching this, you can see it. I just shifted and the sun rays hit right as I was saying that. The return of the light. Like, what if that's not taken for granted? What if in times before electricity, we realized what an incredible gift it is that there are these rhythms, that things leave and then come back again, right? So, we can't change, well, I don't know that I should say we can't. It's probably quite hard to change culture overnight. And it's always tricky balancing our individual needs with, our relationships and the expectations of the people who care about us and who we care about. So, but I'm going to invite you, if you are feeling burnt out, if you are feeling tired and exhausted and kind of like overfull and empty at the same time, to see if you can sort of find some way to shift internally a little bit into more of that cave, or find moments to give yourself more deep rest, or let yourself stare off into space and be a little bit more in that dreaming space, or plan that after the holiday season's over, you're going to take January to really draw back from a lot of your commitments, your extra commitments, and really let yourself drop in if you can do that, to the extent that you can do that. And even where you can't, see if you can just at least recognize where the way you're moving and showing up in the world may be out of sync with what your body actually needs, with what the season is actually inviting. Because those rhythms are so key for us not experiencing burnout, for us experiencing a deeper sense of belonging in ourselves, in the world around us. And for actually bringing more like gratitude and meaning and beauty to the holidays, to our gatherings when we do gather. So, I'll just leave it there for now. And I am planning, if I can get it together. I have also been kind of withdrawing a little bit and needing to cut back on some extra work. But I am hoping December 20th to have a winter solstice gathering, which it'll be on Zoom, so it'll be virtual, but it'll be kind of a time to kind of part ceremony, part gathering, to enter into the cave, as it were, into the roundhouse, and really drop into sort of a deep, quiet rest space, maybe receive some sort of story or myth that can sort of carry with us, the images and archetypes that can kind of carry with us through this season and can kind of help us really honor this time of year and the beauty of it, and the challenge of it, and the prayer of it. And so that we can kind of keep staying in this rhythm of aliveness within ourselves and within the wider world. So if I do get that together, I will put the link in the show notes. It'll be free. Just kind of the first one of this that I'm doing, although I've had the idea for a while and have been building up to it. So anyway, it would be lovely to see you there if that calls to you. And just see what you can do to find some of that quiet space internally, or if you can't find it internally right now, see if you can find somewhere externally and just let yourself like steep in it, and let it kind of enter you and shift things internally within you. So, yeah. And if you know somebody who you're like, oh, they would probably love hearing this, then please, again, as usual, by all means, spread the word, share. It's much, much, much appreciated. And I will see you next time.